Yeah.
Welcome to the Hippie Dippy Show. I'm a host, Beau Bowker.
And I'm Cassidy Bowker.
And I'm Jeffrey J.
Yay! You guys, today we are so excited to bring you a new topic, the cold grip of death.
And all of the amazing things that come with death?
Yeah, all the trappings.
Yeah.
The frills, the pomp and the circumstance.
The suffering, the loss, the grief.
Yeah. We're all like really excited to talk about death.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's important, actually, probably. If someone had just died, probably wouldn't have been as much fun. Because then we'd also be talking about a person in particular. And right now, let's see, hold on. It's Saturday. This thing comes out on Monday. So.
Well, there is a lot of death in the world right now.
That is true. It's very on brand.
It is.
I've been trying to teach Beau about compassion lately. I've really been trying to teach him about compassion. He's such a beautiful, wonderful person. And then he's like, a lot of death in the world right now. Excuse me.
Well, I think that will probably come up during this whole conversation because I have, within my own family, had a lot of death. And I think it's affected my relationship with it, like being so close to death. A little tease for later in the show.
Yeah.
My mom died, my brother died, and my dog died, all within like 5 months of each other. It's like, we get it, God.
Good Lord.
We get it, God. I'm not supposed to masturbate. I thought that's why it happened.
Not real.
No, I didn't really think that.
You never know with him.
He wasn't 7.
I'm sorry, I can't stop.
Oh my God.
Ew, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want that to be a thing.
Obviously, he stopped because you're still alive. I will say.
Every time she pisses me off, every time I get upset with Cassidy, I go like this. I'll do it! Swear to God, I'll do it! You never know who it's going to be.
Oh my God. That's the new bad horror movie coming out. You get any wish in the world if you don't ever masturbate again. Do you do it?
I don't know why we always have to do this in the beginning. I don't know why. I think it's hilarious. I think it's so fun. But I'm really just trying to understand what inspires that from you guys.
I'm this close.
I'll tell you one thing is that I have always, it's always been a struggle with me, especially when we say something bad or sometimes there's been times when it's been real gross in other previous podcasts. Right off the top, I'm like, why are we talking about this? But over time, I think I realized if they're listening, they're going to get there. Might as well know if they want to turn it off now.
That's right. Give them an option. Make it, it's a real Sophie's choice,
I will say, on the topic of Beau being desensitized, I feel like it's a little bit about, what are they, coroners? Coroners and people who work in funeral homes tend to have, I read this amazing article that was based on a book. I was going to say I read this amazing book, but I didn't read the book. I read an article on the book.
Or the headline of an article about
a book. Yeah. But it was a book about language that people use in professions. And the ones that sometimes firefighters use for dead bodies and things and coroners. There's this great train of thought about it, and they're very desensitized and use some pretty harsh language or silly language or make jokes about things that anyone else would be like, that's a dead person or that's someone's loved one or whatever the heck it is. But it's like, well, these people are dealing with it every day, and half of it is, what jokes would you make when you went to work?
Mm-hmm.
And the other half is how you cope with the fact that you're dealing with this so often.
Yes.
And don't let it take you over to be this depressive, like, yeah, I need to process it constantly or whatever the heck. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah. You need a way, like, that actually helps me sort of identify within myself what you're talking about with the firefighters and morticians and things, or coroners or whomever,
Yeah.
where it's like, you need a way to normalize it and kind of compartmentalize it and associate it with it differently, or else you'll go crazy. And same thing sort of for me, where it was like, I mean, yeah, like I said, my brother died at the end of August. My mom died in the beginning of February.
Years ago, not this year.
Yeah, no, yeah. Here I am.
Like what year was that?
This was 10 years ago. 2009 to the end of 2009 to the beginning.
Get over it.
Well, and that's what we want to talk about too, is grieving and the process of grieving, you know. No, it's very funny. And that's the thing. I can laugh about anything. I've always believed that everything is funny and nothing is off limits. And I truly mean that, with the exception of like certain like horrible crimes and things like that. And on compassion, I have, I've got to walk that back a little bit, because in the last year probably, there are certain things where I'm like, oh, I don't think that's a good thing to make fun of. You know what I mean? Like, because it is like, a violent crime or something, to scar people and things like that. And so I've walked that back a little bit, but certainly with anything about my own life or things that I've experienced, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, that's mine.
Yeah.
I can with it, and I can find, because to me, I'll say this at the top too. To me, the only person that I really feel bad for in a death are the people that are still alive, that are grieving it, because grief is a big thing. To me, I love the Peter Pan quote: "To die would be an amazing adventure," something like that.
Yeah.
Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Really? When does he say that? In the movie?
Page 46.
Is that just a book thing? I don't remember that.
I don't know if he says it in
Yeah.
a children's cartoon, but
Well, he tries to kill himself, but then he can fly, and so he's this weird. It's like a vampire thing where you want to die, but you're immortal.
yeah. So
It was
I think that yes, having a moment. I think that death is a beautiful thing. It's a necessary thing. It's it's very similar to birth. Like, it's just it's a transition, and it's an amazing thing. But I want to know too, like, what was, and I'm sure we'll circle back to all these sort of things. I got plenty to say about dead people. But just to finish that point, yes, I think if I didn't have a way of dealing with it, coping with it, like laughter or writing jokes or whatever, like, which I did almost immediately after my brother passed away, then I would go crazy, because I mean, that's deep trauma. Like the three closest beings in your life, my brother, who was my best friend, my mom, who was my best friend. I told them both they were my best friend. And then my dog.
Yeah. Who was the real best friend?
Exactly. I was so close with that dog. It was amazing. And then, its brain exploded. But yeah.
God.
Yeah, it was a heck of a couple of months. But yeah, so I think, it's understandable that if you don't find a way to deal with it, cope with it in some way, you're going to lose your mind. I mean, if you look at that on paper, it's like, oh, well, this person definitely killed himself. Like,
Yeah.
if I didn't have any coping mechanisms, what else?
Yeah.
Not that laughter is the only coping mechanism. It certainly isn't, and it certainly wasn't.
What did you do? Where were you at in your life? Were you in school? What was the situation? What were you doing in life, and what did you do?
I was sort of working for my family business. I was writing comedy. I had just written a pilot for Comedy Central. Like I started that after my brother died, I think, and before my mom passed away. Somewhere in there. No. Yeah, no. It was when my brother was sick that I was writing that. But then that had dried up and gone away and didn't springboard into something else. So it was kind of like, well, now what? So I was still writing, but nothing was really happening.
And you were in a relationship.
I was in a relationship.
So that's a factor of you have a support person.
I did. Yeah. And, and I think of her from time to time in terms of like, good Lord, like that person was really there for me, and like, bless her heart. Like, because I was in no condition to be a partner for anybody.
Yeah.
And ultimately, obviously, we weren't made to be together, but we were made to be together at that time. She was like an amazing support. And I love that you can appreciate that, that she literally cleaned up my dead dog's brains. Like, what a nice girlfriend. And then I had to break up with her.
Oh my God.
And then, that's, but I had to, because it wasn't the right relationship.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like, God, thank you. Thank you so much. And like for that support and everything like that. But yeah, and I was in a relationship that wasn't going to end in forever, and I had moved in with my parents because I was in a transition as far as my living situation. I wanted to buy a house, and I moved in with my parents, and my mom, she had cancer. My brother had just died. So grateful that we had those last several months together, in the way that the universe works, as I always say, because my mom, she had always said, and I had always said too, even as like a 28-year-old sort of man, we want to live together again someday. Like, we loved each other so much and wanted to live together again. And at the time, that was less normal than it is now.
Yeah.
Moving back in with their parents for financial reasons and things like that. And we had that, the way that life works, we had that experience and opportunity, and it was magical and amazing to have that time together, and so special. And then she blew it. And she ruined the whole living situation. And then I was living with my dad, who is like, as far as like perspective, like my mom was very spiritual, very attuned and curious about life and death and God and like manifestation and things like that. And then there's my dad.
Yeah.
Like, we used to call him Dr. Doom, because he was just like, well, like one day, like years and years ago, my dad looked at my cat. I was like, Dad, the cat's looking kind of sickly. And he's just like, she's got leukemia. And I was like, how would you ever know that? And he wouldn't. But his death brain goes to, she's got leukemia. She's good as dead. And it was like, and then years later, he said the same thing about my mom. No. not really. But
Your dad?
he used to pack our cars with emergency kits.
Yeah, he has a lot of emergency kits all over the house, even to this day, and stockpiles of emergency food, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just like earthquake kits, and then like there was an earthquake kit in your car, and like it had things like a gallon of water, and then like something literally called an emergency poncho. Like, it was like a poncho that you put on in case you were stuck in the rain. Like, emergency! I'm at a fiesta.
How did your parents? How did they, especially towards the end, like how did they get on?
My father was in big time denial of my mom's condition, and my mom was always like, I mean, she was outwardly in denial for the sake of my dad. That wasn't like super positive thinking. I know my mom, and she knew that she was gonna not gonna make it this time.
Yeah.
Because she had beaten cancer earlier in her life when she was pregnant,
Jesus.
actually.
That's the worst.
I know. And so yeah, it was really hard. Like, cause all my confidants except for my girlfriend were dead, and then my dad was essentially suicidal. I have to laugh because again, it's a coping mechanism, and it's so sad and crazy, like that. It's
Well,
it's just crazy.
there's this amazing thing though, whenever you can step back and be far enough away from it and see the funny in the situations, because your dad's quote unquote suicide attempts, we've talked about before. He'll be like, I'm just gonna go up to Yellowstone and maybe it'll explode this time. Your dad will plan dangerous vacations because he won't kill himself, but he will plan things that'll be like, maybe if I'm in enough danger, a bear will eat me, and then
Jeff's not joking. Like, that was real stuff. My dad. So that's the thing to clarify, is that dad like talked about it. I thought at the time like it was very possible, but I ultimately know that he's not going to do it. He would never do it. I think he's very typically depressed and has ideas about it and whatever, but I don't believe that he'll do it. I think like if a psychologist looked at it, they'd be like, it looks like he's going to do it. But what I know of what you can know is that I don't believe he would ever do it. But yes, he was leaning into it, and like he like wrote, like notes, like literally there was a note that was like, please, no, this note was like, not the other note, but this note was like, hey, I'm going fishing, like thanks for watering the plants, water the inside plants every other day, water the outside plants every day. If I die, give so-and-so $25,000. Give the dog in the morning and a little scoop at night. Bury my ashes in the tree on the beach in Catalina next to where I put your mother's ashes. Just put some of them there. I do not care what you do with the rest. Like, this is a note. He was going fishing.
Yeah, he's like, put the rest of the ashes in the mouth of the fish who killed me, because my assumption is I will catch a large enough fish that it will pull me into the water, and at that point I will then give up on life.
Oh my God. Yeah. So anyways, I don't want to monopolize the whole podcast, but that's where I was during that time. But I was leaning into knowing that everything happens as it's meant to. and it was very, very difficult to see in that time. But and that's just faith, is knowing that no matter what my experience is, and my experience of grief and depression and total loss, is valid. And that's the thing too, like whatever you're experiencing as the ones left behind is valid and necessary. You must grieve, and allow it to take shape however it takes shape. But ultimately, coming back to all is well. And it sounds crazy, especially when you're in it. Like if you say that out loud when all of the things that we just described are going on, people will be like, "You're nuts. You're not okay. This isn't okay." And yeah, the experience of it isn't, but big picture, this is exactly as it's meant to be. And
Yeah. And I think say what you will, whatever. I don't want to monopolize it. I think your perspective is incredibly important because you got a crash course on losing two people who were incredibly close to you, who really mattered, and you took those experiences and you turned them on their heads and you still process them and you thrived because of them.
yeah.
And I was talking to Cassidy, I don't know when, that something had come up about your mother, and I said, I did not say this. I don't know why this came to my head. I'm glad she's dead, but I didn't. What I said was,
Good riddance.
yeah. What I said was, there's so much power. I think some people are too bright to be here too long. I've always believed that, and sometimes that's longer than others. I think my grandmother was so incredibly bright that she just fought her way to stay here because of willpower. But I think your mother, having passed away, she changed you. I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't think you would be as spiritual if she hadn't passed, because you really looked inward because of it. And I know it's lovely because you want to share all these things together, but because of that, I think you dove into these beliefs more, and maybe not, but
no, you're right.
And you started therapy, a week or two before she passed away, right?
Yeah.
Like you opted into that. You knew that for yourself, or did somebody recommend that to you?
No, I knew. I felt okay, like with everything that was happening, but then things really started spiraling out of control. I felt like I was always felt like a very grounded person, and part of that was because of my relationship with my mom. I talked to her about everything, and I was suddenly like, oh, the person I share everything with is actively dying, and I can't in good conscience bring the things I'm feeling right now in losing her to her. She had enough to deal with, I couldn't be like, but I'm sad too.
Yeah. Don't go. Stay here and be miserable and in pain.
Yeah. So I knew that, like, I knew, even though I couldn't identify fully with, like, oh my God, I'm doing terribly. Like, I was like, this is too much for anybody, no matter what I think. Like, it was like I didn't believe myself that I was okay. And so I was like, I need to go talk to somebody. And I can't unload onto my mom as I've always done. So I'll pay somebody. And also, I think there's another thing of finding the humor mechanism is I had being somebody who loves to make people laugh. I hated during that time being asked how I was, or what's going on. Like, even just the first questions you have in any conversation, hey, what's up? What's going on with you? Oh, nothing. And I felt like if I told them, I would just be the most depressing thing ever, and we couldn't move forward. So I really withdrew socially and leaned into making other people comfortable too, you know, which is something I've really only put that last point, that last piece into perspective, probably just in that moment 2 seconds ago, and that's very interesting to me. You know, my need to make people feel okay.
Yeah. And there's a when people ask you how you are and you don't want to bring the situation down, it also is painful to you because there's that idea of like you're lying. Yeah, I'm so honest with people that when I'm like, yeah, everything's fine or whatever, or if someone's asking me about something and I have to tell a lie for some reason, oof, that messes me up. So when you're going like, I'm fine or whatever the heck, that's putting you on the spot every time someone asks you, how are you doing?
Right. Yeah,
Oof.
no, that's a big thing too, is like that feeling, that compulsion to be honest with people. Yeah, absolutely. um,
Mm, yeah, thanks for sharing all of that, honey. So,
Thank you.
so sort of how this topic was inspired,
Yeah.
was a couple of things. Number one, I was reading this really beautiful book, and it is called The Book of Awakening, and is written by Mark Nepo. And Mark Nepo wrote this book when he was in the thick of battling cancer, and so he ended up just basically um, deciding to look into every experience and every relationship and every day and every moment. And so there's an entry for every day, and I think it goes through the course of a year. And they're beautiful, and he like incorporates quotes from books that he's reading, and then it's like his personal, like real life relationship examples or thoughts, and it's just profound. So I was flipping through and I found this one page, and it was on there's some journaling questions at the end of every day, and it was, what is your relationship with death, what is your relationship with life, with living. And I have, in maybe since, I don't know, I don't know. I feel like it was sort of a forever, like my whole life type of thing. But most especially in yoga teacher training, we started talking about, the concepts of non-attachment and impermanence. And impermanence was a huge word for me. And, I've also experienced death in my life. And, but what I want to focus on is when I've heard that word impermanence, and that this body is not a forever body. We are all going to die, right? We're born to die one day. It just sort of is what it is. They go hand in hand. Um, and when we were asked in teacher training, we're all sitting together, what comes up when you think of the word impermanence? And I'm the type of person that doesn't speak right away. I like to listen. And so I was listening to everyone sharing. And one woman in particular, my friend, she had lost her son. She had lost her son when he was maybe 19 or 20. And so she, this is a very triggering conversation and topic. And, it makes her feel horrendous grief and guilt. And why am I still alive, but my son's not? And other people sharing their relationship with impermanence, and all of it was struggle and almost resentment toward, and fear, fear of, if I die, what about my family, what about my partner, what's going to happen? And then sort of everyone had shared, and I just kind of raised my hand, and I said, I don't know, I hear all of those things. And even in hearing all of those things, I still have this relationship with impermanence that sort of makes me feel free. When I think that one day I will die, that seems quite liberating for me. And in that I can reconnect with that spirit aspect of myself that always is, but just really shed this flesh shell and be that omnipresent love, right? And light. And so another thing happened during that time of yoga teacher training. We ended up doing this beautiful sound bath or sound experience, really, and it was at the Pyramids of Chi in Bali, and in this sound bath experience, so it's completely dark in there, and you're in this pyramid shape, and they're playing everything, and it's almost like a shamanic sound journey, and you're lying down, and you have probably like an eye pillow and you have blankets around you, and you're totally comfortable. And I was holding hands with this woman that I met, who for me resonated like a mother from a past life. We were holding hands that whole experience, and I needed that because my whole life I had been afraid of the dark, and I didn't quite know why. I thought maybe it's just, that's how kids are. Kids are afraid of the dark. And even into like my later teen years and even into adulthood, wherever I was living, as soon as I get inside, I turn on all the lights if it's dark. I don't like the dark, right? And in that experience, I was sort of taken to this place in this dark environment with all of these sounds of, this is the womb of the universe. And actually, we all come from the dark. And it is dark when we are in the womb of our mother. And the dark is not scary. Like, the dark is not actually scary. It's free. And I can move here. And I can sort of just be here. And I don't have any of these bodily, egoic thoughts and suffering. And it's quite nice. And so from that experience, I started taking it forward. And I remember coming home and talking to Beau about it, and Beau getting really upset with me. And I was saying, isn't impermanence actually quite liberating and beautiful? And this is my experience. And do you see this? It's great. And Beau was really upset that night. I think it was nighttime. And very angered, right? Like, but if you die, how could you be comfortable with that? If you die, what about us? And what about the kids? And so it was kind of kicking up the dust of that experience, those experiences, right? That you had with your mother and your brother and your dog and whoever else in your life had passed away, because healing is not linear, right? Healing is not linear. You don't just have that event happen in your life and then you just grieve about it, and grieve. Maybe you have a whole year of depression and discontent and suffering, and then you're just cured. That doesn't happen, right? Years later, something reminds you of that person, I don't know, and then it's triggered, or you're going through a hard time and you miss your mom, and you're scared or whatever it is. Healing is not linear. And so when I was sort of expressing all of that to you, it put it in perspective for me too. So I was going through at that time this great awakening of, wow, that is quite liberating. And then when I had an experience that thought, I had to come back down to earth and this physical form and really lean into the sensation of, oh, but wait, what if I did leave my husband and our children and my mom and dad and my family and my friends behind? What would that feel like? And I was really sad. I don't know if you remember that. There was a point when I started feeling a little bit anxious, and I was sad about those thoughts. And I finally, I don't even know if maybe it was like a year later.
I think it was when your grandma was.
When Grandma Max?
Yeah, when Grandma Max was.
Yeah. So this was about a year later. My one of my grandmothers was transitioning and choosing to enter hospice and just deciding like she's done.
Yeah, she was just like straight up like, I'm done. Like she was like like not in good health, but she could have
hung on.
Yeah.
And so she made that decision. So
I love that. That's the most badass thing.
I know.
It was really, she's a badass
Grandma
woman.
Max is
I mean,
badass.
You want to describe her in one word, she's badass.
Yeah. That's the thing that I love, is when someone goes like, yeah, I did everything. Like, I'm good. And then everybody else, all the other people, but I need you.
Yeah. There was a lot of anger toward her and the family, but also understanding, right? There was both. Right? It all exists.
Yeah.
And so I came back home and I was grieving. I was so crying. I mean, I was crying so much. And then I realized, probably through breath work, that I was entering this reconciliation with impermanence. So first I was like, ooh, impermanence, I get it, I love it. And then I was like, oh no, wait a second, I hate impermanence. This sucks. And now I'm in this reconciliation, right? Because it all lies on the same thread, the acceptance and then the denial of. It's all on the same thread here. And so I was like back and forth on this thread. It was making me kind of cuckoo. And yeah, so now after that experience, which P.S. Grandma Max ended up after I took 2 flights out there to see her.
Cha-ching, cha-ching.
She ended up deciding, they moved her to a different wing in that nursing facility, and she reconnected with some friends, and she decided, I'm going to cancel hospice. After we all flooded, right? We all came to everybody, all of her nine children, and kids, grandkids, and great grandkids. Everybody's coming to like say their piece and love and goodbye. I think I'm gonna stay.
Oh,
like another year.
One last power move. See, I told you if I was dying, you'd be here. I actually have 8 years left.
Yeah.
The old bait and switch.
But anyways, yeah. So yeah, this topic comes up often, and I do feel that because I experienced both aspects of it and then sat with the in between and had to purge things and understand things and make I have a good relationship with it right now as it stands in life. And it's come up again, the topic of impermanence in maybe the past year. And I love it. I love talking about it. I think it's really wonderful and great. I think that a lot of things can come out of grief and loss and death and dying. And it just really depends on your relationship with yourself. With yourself. Like I think we're sort of talking about this, what were you doing at that time? And we wonder these things too. I've had people message me, yeah, but how did you come to this like place of peace? And I think someone said, do you smoke a lot of pot? And no, I just think that I've always had that type of relationship with myself and experience and been open, and maybe the people around me in my life have been, positive influence in a way. But it does take a lot of deep looking and inner work and mindfulness and exploring different things, right? When you just attach to one outlook, you're not going to see everything. You're going to have blinders on and only see from that one perspective. For example, say, okay, I'm accepting Christ into my life. I'm a Christian. And you're not going to see other possibility that exists outside of Christianity. So there's something to be said about integrating different aspects of spirituality and then pulling from different threads and seeing what resonates. And
you can have it all, basically. I think is something too, where it's like, yeah, I think Jesus is amazing. And also this and that and this from them. And these guys thought about this and they said this. And none of it in the teachings of it is exclusive of other things necessarily.
Yeah, everybody has just a different history to get there, and then some hateful people got in and stuck their words in.
What a physical form human thought to create a hierarchy of, we do this all the time in our relationships, right? In our judgments, we create a hierarchy of life of I'm right, you're wrong, you're not as smart as me, I know it all. Right? But to create a hierarchy too of spirituality. No, this is the one that is the most correct and yours is wrong. What a human thought. And Ram Dass talks about this, kind of thought of gurus basically looking at people's melodramas and very judgmental or super thinking minds and kind of stepping back and like, how sweet that you're so human. That you take this so seriously that, and I'm really in that place right now of, interesting. I am human and I am more, and I can feel all of these human feelings, and then I can also step back and observe myself and my handlings of them. And God, that has just like, I don't know, been able to like up level us in our relationship, and just handlings of stress and life and different things. And so I love this topic of grief and loss, and seeing the beauty in things. And it's not even just physical form loss, not just death of, whomever in your life, or a loved one or a friend or somebody, or in the grand scheme of the world of COVID times and all of, the death that we're experiencing. It's also in regards to death of like a chapter, maybe death of a relationship, right? You're not murdering your husband, okay? Maybe you're choosing to divorce, something like that.
Beau. This is all very themed. You're alone in a house, aren't you? With no children. That's the thing. That whenever there's a husband-wife murder, they always send the kids away.
Oh boy.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, just so you know. Those murder podcasts? I listen to all of them. The true crime
Really,
podcast.
Yeah. And I think too. Well, I want to say too that part of where I was during that whole experience of the tornado of death was like I was also like very spiritual too. I was reading a lot and reading my Taoism books, the Tao Te Ching, and I don't know if at that time I was getting into Wayne Dyer and things like that, but yeah, I was. That was a big part of it for me too, and so I think things that affect it and affect your ability to process it and process death and have the attitude of like being okay. As I said, I'm okay with the person who passes. Like I'm at peace knowing that, oh, you're good. Like, and part of that is my relationship with impermanence, which like yours has fluctuated because when everybody passed away, I was like, good for them. And I had this attitude about my own impermanence and was like, I'm good. And then we had children and I was like, oh, no. I'm impermanent. We're going to be dust one day.
Yeah, you did really go through that.
Yeah, big time.
Huge thing.
Big time. That was really tough. And then I'd come back since then a little bit, as I've grounded more. And been again more in touch with my spirituality and things. And so then it's also your relationship with what you believe happens when you die.
Yeah.
Because think about it, if I am of the belief that you get one shot at this, everything you did goes away pretty much. Your energy is gone. The love that you gave stops. And your spirit just is dead with your body. Then that's pretty hard.
Or worse, that every bad thing you ever did sent you to hell, and the people that you love also might be in hell, burning forever, etc. Which I was raised in a Catholic, in the Catholic school system because my parents were raised Catholic, and while they don't subscribe to Catholicism in the way that they, there are members of my family that at times were like, aren't you sad that they're going to burn in hell forever? And they've said that about a human. About me. One of them has said that about me. Aren't you sad that your daughter's going to burn in hell forever? And I was like, first of all, that's hilarious. But I would make that place a party. This place is fire.
Everybody with shirts.
Yeah. Well, it's so hot down here, we have to wear crop tops. But
Jeff in hell. Like just having a great time making it such a better place.
Yeah, the same size as all the little minion guys.
Hey, what's your name?
You know what, Jeff? They might just promote you to like president or something, and you would sit in that exact chair.
Yeah, it does.
Adolf's funny little mustache.
Yeah. It's the man-made stuff that helps aid in making death terrifying.
Yep. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
And
oops, go ahead.
to those people, right, Jeff, your family members who this is what they subscribe to, this is what they believe in, that's it. How could you know that?
Well, because and how could you not, and all the other things, you can't even get into that because it's too far gone to ever talk about religion and the idea of proof or non-proof or whatever. And everything I believe in is so incredibly also frou-frou that to call their belief not real would be incredibly hypocritical of me. Because I believe in so many things. Mine just aren't rooted in the idea of hate and misery. And I choose good not out of fear. I choose good because I know and I see that the good that I do creates goodness, and that's what makes me happy, and that's what makes everyone else happy, and joy, etc. And other people do it because I'm supposed to, because otherwise I'll go to hell.
Right. No. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, I love that, Jeff. That's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, and I don't mean to say like that those beliefs aren't real. How could you know them? Not in a dismissive type of way. Just in like a place of neutrality. Like, is that not the goal of the spiritual path? To come to this place of neutrality where you are just open to whatever comes your way, open to ideas, and not creating like these barriers around, or continuing to grow your blinders. So maybe that's true,
Yeah.
and it's not.
Yeah.
Like,
And guess what? If I wake up in hell after I die, guess what? I got a lot of joy out of life and worth it. And what would I have even done that would have gotten me like hell status?
right.
If it's being trans, I'd do it again, Satan.
That's hilarious. Being trans is wrong. I don't want to be right.
I don't want to be a dude.
To all of those family members of Jeffrey J who's ever made those comments,
We're coming
there,
after you.
No, I'm gonna put it out there in
good.
the universe right now, because people are curious. Sometimes people, when they attach to something they don't like, they like follow it because there's like a thread there that's attaching them to that thing. And maybe one day they're like, what's going on with Jeff? I'm gonna look at that podcast. And so
don't worry, they're dead.
Oh.
So go ahead, put it out into the universe, because if either they're in hell now, very in heaven, very satisfied, or they're in hell because of all the hate, or they're drifting in the universe and they're like, screwed up, but oh well.
I was wrong. My bad.
My bad. And I hope that's what it is. I hope that people who are like, oh, my bad. I think that they still have a really great afterlife, and they just go,
oh, yeah.
And I hope the regret doesn't hurt him too much.
I think all that is gone.
I think so too.
Second you leave this body, like Cass said, like you release form. You're not like, oh no, I forgot to switch the laundry over. Like all the stuff that you thought mattered, the resentments or the judgments and things like that. It's just gone.
Yeah. I agree.
You're light and love again.
And
what do you want to say?
Sorry about that.
Like floating on a lazy river, right, of spirit. You're just like lazy river of spirit, and I imagine everyone passing around a plastic bag of wine and playing slap the bag.
What slap the bag? I'm an alcoholic and I don't know a drinking game.
I'm just kidding, you guys. But
anyway,
I like
slap the bag.
Slap the bag. You never had a box wine? Go and buy a box wine. You take the bag of wine out of the box, and then you hold it up for your friend. And while they're drinking, you slap that plastic bag of wine. I don't know why. It's just fun. It's just fun.
No, I always drank my boxed wine alone.
Man, we didn't have money back then. We just needed something. We bought ourselves some box wine, made some sangria. Anyways.
I love it. That's my idea. Well, that's an interesting idea, is that in the afterlife, I'm an alcoholic again.
Oh God! I didn't even. So sorry.
It was fine, Jeff. It was all fine.
No! So many years. I will.
Power gone.
Yeah. I will say it's interesting that we ended up going with impermanence and that stuff, because I was like, oh yeah, death. We're gonna talk about my grandma, and then it's really, I think what settled with me is that when we talk about death, I wanted to die for so many years. I didn't want to live, and I had prepped for it, and I knew I was not going to be alive by 35. I just knew that in my head.
Now, in what sense did is this a suicide
Oh,
thought?
nah, except I just was like, I'm going to die. I just knew I was going to be dead by 35. And I had so much depression and body shame and the alcohol and everything that, I mean, I was actively trying to kill myself. And it wasn't until there are these tiny moments, and I think part of it is I am so empathic that I get into these. I would get into these phases, and then you drink and you don't process anything. So you're not processing. All you're doing is feeling feelings. Then you have this drug called alcohol that amplifies only the bad ones. Then you do things that cause more guilt and shame. And then you're not progressing forward in your life, which more guilt and shame, cycle, 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 cycle. And the only thing I had going for me was that I was like your dad, and I was too scared to kill myself. I just there's a line in Game of Thrones that I love so much, and this guy is drinking alcohol, and he's like, you are drunk, stop drinking. He goes, there are faster ways to kill yourself. And he goes, not for a coward. And I was like, that is the most beautiful, and like the one thing that I had going for me was that I was too scared. And that being scared got me to these little moments where I quit drinking and I allowed myself to forgive myself in moments, which, by the way, does not just mean forgiving yourself. It means doing the things it takes to make those things right. And it is a concept in AA. While I don't do AA, I do think that you have to make things right in order to forgive yourself or take steps to do better things and make better choices. And in those moments, the amount of joy that flooded in and saved me was fantastic. Sorry to bring this thing down. I don't mean to, because I am so incredibly
important and touching.
Yeah. Well, because I am so incredibly far from that. But before I quit drinking the last time, I was so ready and almost just angry that it wasn't happening fast enough. And now I'm like, everyone's going to be so sad when I die. Like, this is great. I, for the first time ever, I'm like, I'm putting good back out into the world. And if I died right now, I'd be sad because there's so many things I can do and will do. Or just plain, if I did nothing more with my life, I've at least put some joy into the world, or made someone's life easier, or maybe had their mind think about something that made them do something different in their life. The amount that I want to get out of life, having survived that, is why I'm writing the book that I'm writing, because I've been there And I don't know what happened that got me out. And I am so mother effing blessed that I did. Because good God, I'm high out of my mind almost all the time now. And it's awesome.
That's so beautiful, man.
Well, can I say something, Jeff?
Yeah.
So what I wanted to say to those family members and those now spirits,
Suck it. Sorry. Go ahead, please.
is that, how sad that you couldn't look outside of your own fear and your own hurt and your own, I don't know, just belief systems to experience something different and to see, the joy that this was bringing somebody, the joy that this was bringing somebody, and the pain that this was bringing somebody. And Jeffrey J is the one of the most beautiful people that I know. And Jeffrey J is one of the most beautiful hearts that I know, and just so thoughtful and so powerful and authentic, like as you stand before us right here right now, or as you sit right here before us right now. One of the most beautiful and vivacious, and yeah, absolutely just inspiring and so cool and fun and freaking free and playful, and wow, how sad that you couldn't see that in this human existence. And it makes me almost angry, and not angry, but I just feel like called to say, human family, we can do better. We can do better. We are running on autopilot right now. We are running on ego autopilot. And get over yourself and stop and choose something different, because it's a bunch of BS, that we've been living and existing all of these years, and yet we are still fighting with each other over right and wrong. And we're still fighting with each other over love and hate. And what's up with that? Do better. Notice the little things in your everyday life, right? This is almost like the grounding meditation at the end. I'm sorry, I have a PSA today. And my PSA is that notice the little things in your everyday life that you judge. What are the things that you know? Or you look at someone, you're like, ugh, how could that person do this? Or look at that mom. Oh, I don't like that. Notice those little things that you're judging. And then pause and try to think a different thought in that moment. Try to maybe understand, make up a different story in your mind, because you made up a story about that mother treating her child or whatever it is. You made up a story there. You have no idea what that person is going through in their life. Make up a different story. And then have compassion. We can do better.
Yeah. I do that when I drive. Every time someone cuts me off in traffic and him was like, you piece of shit, you what? I go, but it's probably really worse. I wanted this to sound better, but I'll go, her sister's probably dying in the hospital and she's trying to get there right now. And you're mad at her? She's like, and I was like, her sister's literally dying right now. Then I'll just get really specific. And I'll give people excuses.
Her sister's fine.
I know. But I'll make up stories for people and say, like, when somebody will do something shitty to me, I'll have to go, I hope that made them feel good, because maybe there's something they don't have control over in their life that's sad for them, and me being willing to take whatever negative energy they had to give to me, maybe that made them feel satisfied. Maybe they needed to cut me in line and be a dick about it and then flip me off, all those things, because they don't have power at home, because they're in whatever sort of relationship, or they don't have control over something. And what I can do is not let it affect my day and say, well, please don't do that to other people. I hope that's not where you get all your power. But I hope that maybe it helped you in some way. Or if it is, I at least don't want to send you any more hate. That's what I don't want to do.
Exactly. Those people don't need more hate. Like, you think that hating them is going to cure them? You think that hating them is going to cure the hatred in the world? No,
No.
it's not.
Uh-uh. Nah, put out love.
Question.
Yes.
Whoa, comments.
What?
Oh, I want to. I'm totally on board with what we're talking about. With, and I love what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. Like, I'm really in a mode of like trying to judge less, knowing, well, I'll say this. I know that I need to release judgment more, judgment of self too, and judgment of others. It starts with judgment of self, I believe. Um, but and it's one of those, it's like quitting drinking or smoking pot or something where I'm like, all right, I'll give up judgment tomorrow. I just got to judge this one last thing.
I know.
That's some bullshit over there. Like,
Especially with comedy, because your
oh my God.
mind goes, why is this funny? And then so I'll still let myself get through the funny part, and then I'll go like, okay, oh, no, okay, well, now let's not judge it, but that was still hilarious, and I'm still writing it down.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And so one thing I want to say is when we're saying do better and things like that, which I agree with that we can be better. It doesn't just like one of the ways that we need to not judge and be forgiving is a great example is those family members that judge Jeff. Don't judge the judgers either, you know? Um, like we need to look at them and say, oh, they didn't know. And they thought they did.
Yeah.
And forgive them because as we've talked about, one of the things from our dear Reverend Kathy is we're all just doing the best that we can with the awareness that we have now.
Yes.
And like I said, you know, it's probably a real wake up call for that family member when they did, you know, transition and we're like, oh, is all this love?
Yeah.
I thought, oh, crumbs.
Oh, man. Susie from church is here after all, and the Jews from down the street. They're all just here. We all love each other. I was for sure they were going to be in hell.
That's funny. Well, and so it brings me to my so it's forgiving everyone, and releasing judgment of everyone, even the ones that were like, no, like I don't feel like that's the right way to be, and look, like it's not the high-minded, Christ-minded, spirit-led, whatever, like way to go, but that's your journey, and we're all just going the same way. Some are at a different point on the journey. Some are taking a roundabout path. Might take them a couple go rounds of life, you know, to do it. But we're all going the same way, and just figuring it out one piece at a time. And there, we're all, I would also say, living out these karmic debts, and you know what you said about my mom, you're absolutely right that my mom, the person that like at that time before I met you, if I could say like, oh, somebody's got to live forever, my mom, definitely my mom, let's live with her forever.
Yeah.
Like in the world, as you said, if she hadn't passed, like the reason why I said when I was 28 and a man, quote unquote, is because I don't think I became a more of an embodied man until my mother passed away, because I needed to grow up. I didn't have mommy anymore. And I, as you said, I went deeper into my spirituality. And so again, that's why I go to everything happens exactly as it's meant to. And even my brother passing away, you know, at such a young age, you know, he's like 40 something, and like, yeah, like all for a reason and everything, all karmic debt and changing the way our family works. And we had to look at certain things like alcoholism, which my brother experienced, and just a lot of family things that we really needed to look into and deal with it. And now we are, and I don't know what that timeline or if it would have been had things not taken place the way that they would have, or the way that they did. But so yes, freeing everyone from judgment. And something that was really valuable that came through during the Sunrise series that Cassidy led so masterfully. I'm just in awe of you. That just wrapped up, and there will be more, right? We dealt with a lot of processing, like guilt and innocence and judgment and things like that. And what I ultimately came to was, well, yes, the reason why I feel guilt and assign guilt to others is because I judge. And so, okay, great. We figured that out. Now, why do I judge? Why do we judge? I judge, and I believe we all judge, because we dare to think and claim that we know better, that we know the truth, the answer. And so even when you're in this hippie dippy, frou-frou, high-minded spiritual place, and this is touching on what we're all talking about and what Cassidy was really talking about with this idea of knowing, of religions saying that this is right and I know this. Same thing goes for no matter who you are or what level you're at.
Yeah.
And getting to that place that you touched on so brilliantly of neutrality, allowing all things to just be. And that's where we can truly finally release judgment. And once we've released judgment, well, then we don't need forgiveness. I don't need you to try to absolve your guilt or your wrongdoings or your sin or whatever, because it doesn't exist. It all just is, when we are able to reach that neutral place of just allowing. I allow you to be wherever you are in your journey and not claim to know differently and not judge it and not cast aspersions on it or think that what I'm doing is somehow better than yours. And
yes. I love this so much. I love this so much because I've been catching myself in judgment a lot. But by that I mean I've been catching myself in judgment a lot and not judging a lot. I think I'm judging less. And in not judging, I kind of don't think I want to not judge. I think there's value, and I think it's a form of questioning. Why? So I'll give you an example. I had a moment of judging Cassidy in our sunrise session.
Okay.
And my thought was, this thing's about to happen. That's not how I would have done it, and that's not what I want right now. That's not what I want. And then it happened, and I was like, that's exactly what I wanted, and this is amazing, and I'm so grateful and excited, and I've caught myself in judgment, and so now I'm going, and now I know judgment. I not only was it what I wanted, but I had the opportunity to judge and then catch the judgment, and I'm going, all these things, and it was cool, and so that I honestly don't think there's a way to not judge. I think that's a thing that we can't eliminate. And I think that it's good. And I think the process of catching the judgment is good. So maybe there is a way to not judge. But I like it because A, it's good with comedy. B, it's fun to question. And I think judgment is a part of questioning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's good too. But I love the process of catching judgment, which I've been doing way more since this topic came up with something. It must have been the sunrise session, because I haven't read that anywhere that I need to start catching judgment. It's just something I've been doing because it must have come to me through sunrise or something. But yeah.
So, yeah, so I think that's a really great point, Jeffrey J. I love that you're saying all of that, because what I'm not suggesting or inviting is to become rigid, right? Become
Right.
rigid around non-judgment, to
Right.
become rigid around correcting yourself,
Right.
to become rigid about choosing the right thing, right? And then you stress yourself out. And that's not what I'm suggesting, because
Right.
I also want you to feel your entire humanity, and your humanity is connected to an ego, and you have to experience those things. You have to experience those emotions, including the emotion of guilt versus innocence, and judgment or non-judgment. You have to
Mm-hmm.
experience all those things and purge them all out, let them be. But then you can also be the observer, right? After you're done with all of that, reflect, right?
Yeah.
and um and then begin to integrate like all aspects of your being, not just the human experience but something higher, right? um yeah, I will say that yes, we can do better, but we don't need to stop.
Mm.
Don't need to stop. There's a healthy way to do things, and to allow, and it's almost like making amends, right? But with yourself.
Mm.
And then when you cultivate that compassion and forgiveness within, then you can extend that without, right? You lay that foundation inside first, and then you can extend that to your community, to the people that you quote unquote hate, or that you're judging and whatever, and noticing that, yeah, it's really true that any judgment that I have about you is really about me, because I'm the one who's harming me in that moment. I'm the
Yeah.
one who's cultivating all that anger and frustration, resentment, and that person's not doing anything really, right?
Yeah. And anytime you hate, you're the one. It's like you're doing it to yourself. They don't even know you hate them half the time. It's
Yeah.
like anytime with the president stuff, people start talking about Trump. I'm like, he has no idea. There's enough coming at him right now. Like, honestly, I'd rather not be another thing for him or me. Just,
I think that emotions play their role. Like we all play our roles, and emotions play the role within us. Like they help
Mm-hmm.
fuel those roles, and we need those emotions, right? If we were not angry about something, then maybe a change wouldn't come. Maybe there wouldn't be like people protesting, and then there would be a resolution of sorts. So emotions are very important. Again, I am not telling you to become rigid about anything, or even the thought of overcorrecting or being, what is that? Like holier than thou all the time. Definitely no.
yeah.
I do think I do believe that there is a point, and I agree with both of you that all the feelings and the full human experience
Mm-hmm.
and range of emotions, absolutely, they all have their place, and we need to feel them and be aware of them, and and yeah, and then so we need to experience them all, let them be. You're not trying to suppress or fight them off, or dismiss them or judge them, because that's such a vicious too, where we
yeah.
have feelings that don't feel in alignment with our higher power or whatever, or spirit, and then we judge them, and then now we're just in this thing of like, oh, I judged this thing that I judged as bad in me, and now I'm even worse than I was before. um, so we need to feel it, let it all come up, and then observe, and then we get to the point where we're able to be the observer, and as Jeff is saying, has been his experience, noting it. And then, because once you bring your awareness to it, then you can start to treat it and release it. And then eventually you're going to get to this point, by continuing to do inner work and things like that, like I believe, where it doesn't come up anymore. It
Mm.
doesn't trigger you anymore. This thing doesn't trigger me anymore. Like I just talked about this with, again, Reverend Kathy, as I'm dealing with my inner child. And I asked her, I said, so eventually, so is it that in dealing with my inner child, these things that come up that I get triggered by, like in my relationship, for example, is it just that I'll be able to recognize them faster, these triggers, and then release them faster? Or is it that eventually they won't trigger me? What is the sort of end game here? Like, what is, and she said that, which I kind of knew but wanted to hear, I suppose, is that, yeah, eventually, once it's truly healed within you, it won't trigger you anymore. And that's ultimately what I believe in, and which is, so on the macro level is, for example, yeah, like, and things wouldn't change, like with protests and things like that. And I certainly understand that. And I just was watching Preston Smiles on Instagram last night, and my assessment, my judgment is he's been super triggered. He's like a big coach and very spirit-led man, and he's been super fiery. And like a lot of people are like, hey man, I've been following you for years and blah blah, and this is different. Like you're coming with this anger now and blah blah blah. And and people are saying a lot of things that we're saying of like, hey, yeah, he's got to feel it. And somebody said last night, like, without this, change will never happen. Change doesn't happen unless there is this anger and things like that. And so I hear you, and I understand that, and I do see that it brings things about. But I also believe that there's this ultimate place that is achievable, that is within our power to get to, which is just a place of love and vibrational love. And it is my belief that is what will ultimately heal all these things that we look at and judge and look at and don't want in the world, and look at and are, have a difficult time with, or whatever that we think is wrong or hurtful or not for the higher good. And I think that is possible. I think that, that's how we heal all this stuff, is ultimately and most purely healing it through love. And I think that we can get there. Yes, you in the
That's
back.
Always the answer.
I know this is the longest podcast in the world that we've done, probably.
It is definitely not, which is like, oh yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what's coming through right now is I hear what you're saying. And I was like, is that true? Is that true? That like even maybe just coming from a place of love and understanding, we can create change. Is that true? Because I'm looking to the idea or concept that discomfort is a catalyst for growth. And that's kind of been like a foundation, something that I tend to work with, like looking at, when I have an argument, or whenever I feel upset about something, I look at it from the lens of, well, this is good. This is good because I'm clearly ready for some type of up leveling or healing here. So this is why it's being put on my plate for me to observe and then grow from, right? So the discomfort is a catalyst for growth. But could it possibly be that comfort too is a catalyst for growth? Now, people say that can't be, because when you're comfortable, you're good, you're content, right? But then I thought in myself lately, I've been so comfortable in this place of neutrality that I believe that I'm growing in the sense of my openness and my almost, I don't want to say it's a constant or a steady stream of peace, but it's this stream of peace that's a little bit longer than I normally experience in a 24-hour time period. But then I even thought of those thoughts and thought, well, is that true? Because again, even in my days, though we practice so much mindfulness, though we do so much inner work, I still experience anxiety. I still experience those discomforts. I still have those judgments. Jeffrey J., you were just over here with me the other day. We're sitting together. I received a text message from someone who I assumed to be judging me and was really upset, and then started judging her based off of my assumption out loud to you, venting that, right?
Yeah, and I judged her with you.
And then we both came down and we're like, well, maybe she's doing the right thing. Maybe she is coming from a place of good heart, right? And love. Well, you don't know. And I was like, okay, I just had to
but I was all in on judging. I trust you so much. I'm like, if we're judging, I'm in. Let's judge away. I got my judging hat on.
You're so funny. It's just human. But so again, is it really can we come from a place of total comfort and just love, only just the love, to promote a change? Like, where's that catalyst? Where's that boom, that thing that pushes you?
Boom. I got one.
Okay.
Anytime you're arguing, especially fighting for something, you're usually doing that out of love for that person. If you don't love a person, you don't argue because you want to change them. You walk away because you don't give a shit. But if you have a point, a lot of the time it's because you're fighting for, most of the time when me and Emma are fighting, it is because I am definitely stuck in my own mindset, but I know 100% without a doubt my way is better and will make her life better, and etc., etc., etc. So much judgment, so many things to work on about the way our lives work differently when you're talking about a person who believes when you die, you're dead and nothing happens, and there is no energy, and I believe in science, and the judgment's already coming out in my impression. But so much love sends that loving energy into words of argument.
Right.
And so that, for one. And two, in comfort, I think you can also grow in comfort, because when I'm comfortable, that's when I become very quickly uncomfortable because I'm not growing enough. And right now, that's why I think I decided to go back to school, because I'm like, I'm growing here, I'm growing here, I'm growing here. Life's going great. What else can I put on my plate? I've got to make up for years of alcoholism and being depressed. Let's fit it all into this month. But I think comfort, as long as you continue to challenge yourself, you can grow so much, because you have the time and the freedom to grow and the want to look at things that you can't look at in chaos and discomfort.
Jeffrey J., this is huge what you said. When you first said it, I was like, oh, did you hear this? Do you hear this? Because we come from the mindset of sort of a Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles. Okay, this is a book. This is what is A Course in Miracles?
Book.
It's a book. Spiritual understanding or practice, or what would you even call it?
Yeah, it's a spiritual text. It's,
okay. It's like it's lessons, right? And
in a book. Book form, words, pages.
I just wondered what you would really call it.
Oh my god.
But anyways, is that only love is real, right? Only love is real.
Mm-hmm.
Anything outside of love is a call for love. So fear is a call for love. The anger is a call for love. All of those others are calls for love. That discomfort is a call for love. Sometimes you're so uncomfortable, you're screaming for love. And you're acting out, right? Doing hateful acts, right? Where does that come from? That's shit. There's shit tons of fear there. And you're like, please, I need so much love. And so Jeffrey J., is it really, if I say discomfort is a catalyst for growth, but I'm looking at discomfort, and what is discomfort? It's a call for love. So it is love that is the catalyst for growth, but that love is wearing a mask in that moment. And
standing 6 feet apart.
So wait a second. And then I think, okay, well then that means that comfort and love is the catalyst for growth. That's the true catalyst, because the discomfort is It is real, right? It's a real experience, but that's not that's not the truth, like, right? Get down to the roots of it.
Exactly.
And so then I had the thought of, wait a second, we're perpetuating a cycle here. We're perpetuating a cycle of the discomfort because we're emphasizing the discomfort. You're like, I'm like, anger. Yeah, keep going. That will help you. Instead of like, look at that anger. It is stemming from a call for love. So love, come on, love, you got this.
Just get to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. Just like the like when you said that about the argue, like you argue when you don't love, you walk away, and you're absolutely right. You argue, you know, come down on or you criticize, or you know, like I get upset with my children and whatever, like, and it's all because of love.
Yeah. You're like, I want the best for you.
Right.
I want you not to die.
Exactly.
That's the truth.
But look at your relationship. Look at our relationship and the way that we communicate. Look at our relationship with our kids and what they're receptive to. What are people receptive to? The more pure expression of love, as opposed to the back and forth and you're yelling and I'm yelling and now I've got to defend myself and now you've got to defend yourself and this is going to take for freaking ever.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying snap into it and just be love, because while we have that ability to access pure love, because it's in here, it's what connects every single one of us. It's why we say one love. It's why we say we are all one, is because this thing is inside of all of us and connects every single one of us. And so we can access it. At the same time, it is something that in our human experience we need to grow towards. And so yes, as some of our teachers say, have your dramas. We all need our dramas, as Keith from Keith's Cacao says, right? Like, we all need this stuff to get through. But the reason why you're triggered by that text message, the reason why you still get triggered by your partner, and the reason why I still get triggered by my partner, is because we haven't healed something yet. And so, but we can, and God willing, in this lifetime, and us willing, ego willing, which means we have to, it's the one place where I think we have to impose our will, is to quiet the ego and amplify the heart. We will get there to this place where I have healed this. And so I don't need to argue with you anymore. I can let you be, I can let things be, and I can zero in on love and send out that vibration and inspire through my being, and the actions that flow therefrom. And now we've cut out all the shit. We've cut out all the arguments and the burning down buildings and whatever else we think that we need to do to get heard and to have our love seen and to see our love in action. And we can get there. And it's okay not to be there right away. It's okay to go through all the human stuff that we go through on the way there. But we can get there, and that's possible.
Can I say one thing and before we wrap up? And that is that I said this to Emma recently. I think one reason we get to certain places, first of all, is by entering things with an open mind. That's just one thing you can do all the time.
Yes.
And I told Emma, one of the reasons that I love Hippie Dippy shows so much, and because she had said something about like, I hate hearing you when you're on, because when I'm with certain maybe college students, if I was doing a college comedy show, afterwards sometimes fans approach and I'm a little less authentic and a little more on.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. certainly been there.
Yeah, and she sees that, and she's like, "You I'm so honest." So it seems like just overly fake to her. Like, yeah, yeah, of course, you're whatever the heck it is that I do, which probably sounds exactly like that.
Right.
So, but what I told her was, she's like, "Well, the thing that I love about Hippie Dippy Show is that I've never ever been on in Hippie Dippy Show,
Yeah.
and the biggest thing is." I've never, ever, even when sharing something that made me feel so vulnerable, like I did today, but I have never been scared to say anything on this podcast because when I told her, I said, it's like having a brainstorm session where everybody agrees that even if someone questions something, it's just a question and no one goes, nah, it's stupid. No,
Right.
I can just say anything and someone will go, but what if, even if you were to completely hate my idea, we would go, but what if?
Yeah.
And it's so empowering to have three minds. It's hard enough to get two. To get three minds that all say, we have made this collective agreement to have an open mind and question things.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. It's really beautiful and something that I'm constantly grateful for. So.
Absolutely. It's hard enough to have one mind that'll do that. And yeah, no, that's thank you for saying that because it's really nice to put that into perspective and acknowledge that for myself too. So thank you for articulating that, and it's true. And I do want to say too, like, thank you for your share today. I know you like, kind of apologize for it, like feeling like it was bringing things down, but it's so important, man. Like, I mean, what a powerful story, especially, especially for anyone who's a human being, but especially for anybody who ever has thoughts of, feelings of depression or thoughts of suicide or just those feelings, temporary feelings that float in and out of like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to feel this anymore. Like, what a testament to the indomitable human spirit and that feeling that you had of like being too scared. Maybe it's something different too, like maybe it shows up as fear of God doing whatever the act is,
Yeah.
but knowing the outcome, which is a excited, loving expression and bright, huge light of expression, that you are, that fear or scaredness kept you from, right? Kept you from doing something drastic. Like, maybe it's something more than just fear or being scared. Like, it's something like it's an inner knowing of I can't do this.
Yeah, there's something not done yet. There's
Yeah,
something, and there's apparently a lot more not done yet.
right. You're a busy guy.
Yeah. Like, I gotta pass classes now, let alone, like, change the world or something? I don't know what it is.
Maybe you change the world.
How about get mostly A's and B's this semester? Can we take that, God? Thank you. Say hi to my grandma, unless she's in hell.
The last thing I want to say about death, and impermanence and all that sort of stuff, please, if you have any interest in any of this stuff, or karma, or impermanence, or your place in the universe, in the world, or what happens to us, read the book Many Lives, Many Masters by
Great one.
Dr. Brian Weiss. I believe, yeah.
Is that who wrote the book?
Pretty positive.
Wow, cool. I love that book.
It is one of the most impactful books I've ever read, and I recommend it to anybody who's alive because it's all of interest. There's like, I can't imagine somebody being like, this is uninteresting. Because, yeah, I won't get into it all, but just check it out.
It's true accounts from this doctor,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so when I first started reading this book, actually, I'll just put this out there that when I first started reading first couple of chapters, something I said, this bunch of bogus, this baloney, this is a fiction novel, but I kept reading because I was interested. And then all of a sudden, I was like, this is real. I don't know. It was maybe the time in my life. I don't know when I read it, but I would like to read it again because I definitely have those thoughts. So if you have those thoughts too, then consider them.
What's it called?
Many Lives, Many Masters.
Many Lives, Many Masters. And it is what we learned today, a book.
How would you describe it?
It's on past life regression therapy. It's amazing.
That's beautiful. We'll get into that again another day because I've got a lot to say about that.
Let's talk about past lives. I would love that.
Yeah.
Cool.
I've got some very hefty opinions and pretty good ideas about myself and all sorts of things. And it is beautiful.
Awesome. I want to hear that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I love you. Do you want to send us out, Cassidy, with some healing energy or some...
Yeah, I will. Thank you. All right, friends and family, maybe close down your eyes or soften your gaze, depending on what feels comfortable and or safe in your body. What is so funny about that?
Beau had brought up soften your gaze, and now I only think about a Christian camp for, what is that? The therapy? What is it? Aversion therapy, where they try to soften gaze.
Soften your gaze is the laundry detergent that they use at conversion camps.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, well go ahead and close down your eyes and laugh if you're laughing. That's a good thing. And
we're not judging though.
Or fix your gaze upon an object. Is that better?
Fix your gaze. That's definitely
that's their slogan. Fix your gaze. Send your son, we'll fix your gaze. It's
so funny, the innocent mind, right? When I don't think about those things.
No, but it means that every time you say it, it brings me joy, and I'm immediately brought back to a place of joy alongside what I'm learning. So we're laughing with you and at Beau.
Absolutely. So third time's a charm. Now I'll be the one laughing. Close down your eyes and find what feels comfortable to you in this moment. Take a deep breath here. Big breath in through the nose and then exhale from the mouth. Maybe wiggle out your shoulders, wiggle out your body, your hands, circle out your wrists. Maybe wiggle your toes. Really notice what it feels like to be in this form, right? Maybe touch a part of your body, your thighs, maybe your belly, your shoulders, your arms. You can interlace fingertips. And then just take a moment of gratitude for the life that you are experiencing right here, right now. Can you find one thing? And if you cannot, that is okay too. Breathe into whatever emotion or sensation is wrapped or tied to the concept of life. And exhale, open mouth. We thank you for coming exactly as you are to this place, this community that supports each and every one of us. Right? And we invite you to continue to come as you are. We invite you to continue on through your day. Maybe blink your eyes open if they're closed. And if you feel called to reach out to us, whatever is on your mind, on your hearts, please do. We're here for you. Truly, and with love. Thank you. Thank you, friends.
Mwah.
Love all around.
Love you guys. Thank you so much.